Commissioner Swaney,
Here.
Commissioner Hope.
Here.
All present except for Commissioner Engler.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Before we go on, I'm going to read the electronic meetings overview because there probably is people that could be on the website or on the YouTube. Number one, welcome attendees to the first electronic meeting of the Isabella County Board of Commissioners. Remind attendees that the meeting will be recorded and live streamed to YouTube, where the public will have the opportunity to view the meeting and access it in the future. Number three, request Clerk Lux to perform roll call votes for every vote this evening. And just to remind you, Commissioner Engler had a good price. When you vote, just mention your name with it so that Mindy can pick up the names of the people that did it. Number four, public meeting attendees will be able to listen to by telephone, call in, and participate in public comments by following the directions in the public notice of this meeting. Number five, commissioners and staff will not be muted in the meetings and should be respectful and try not to speak over others. And I think this afternoon will work perfect. Number six, remind attendees to be patient with the process and with each other, and particularly George Green, because this is my first operation on Any question before we go on? Moving on, item number three is approval of the agenda. We have Margaret McAvoy's report and presentations and special reports. We have one regret of resignation underneath appointments and commissions. Consent agenda. Is there anything on the consent agenda people would like to make corrections on? Hearing none, moving on. Committee reports. Finance and Administration.
Finance and Administration Committee is all set, Mr. Chairman.
Did you want to make that correct? No, that's fine. Thank you. The Isabella County, Criminal Justice and County Affairs Committee.
Criminal Justice and County Affairs Committee is all set, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Human Resource and Public Works Committee.
Human Resource and Public Works Committee is all set, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. We didn't have any intergovernmental affairs, at least total. Do you have anything?
No, sir.
Okay. Margaret, got any administrator controller issues?
No, sir.
Okay. No unfinished business. Under new business, there's one motion. Number one motion is the resolution 2020-04-01. State's form of emergency that needs to be talked about, and the resolution needs to be passed to continue to 1st of May. There's an item 2, and Commissioner Horton, would you like to state that, please?
If we could have a COVID-19 pandemic Isabella County Commissioner discussion.
Okay, that'll be added as number 2. That brings us to this. Is there anything else commissioners want to add to the agenda or delete? Motion to approve the agenda as amended is in order.
So moved, Jim Marino.
Supported by Horton.
Madam Clerk, a roll call, please.
Commissioner Hope,
Yes.
Commissioner Engler,
Yes.
Commissioner Jazinski,
Yes.
Commissioner Horton,
Yes.
Commissioner Marino,
Yes.
Commissioner Swaney,
Yes.
Commissioner Green.
Yes.
Number of votes cast is 7, ayes received 7, nays received 0. Motion passed, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Before I go into general public comment, I have the 7 pieces I'd like to read here about public comment for the audience. Announce that we have reached a public comment section of the meeting. Public participants who have been muted and are interested in speaking are to press *9 on the telephone keypad to raise their hand. The host will alert the chairman if any hands are raised. Item 4, ask the host to unmute the first public comment participant who wishes to speak. Number 5, the host will announce the last 3 digits of the caller's telephone number to alert the public comment participant that it is their turn to speak. Number 6, greet the person, request that state their name and indicate they have a 3-minute time limit for the comments. And actually, number 7 is after that public comment, the host will mute the participant. So at this time, I'm asking, are there any participants that are muted at this time? Nicole.
Chairman, you have one person on the phone that's called in. They do not currently have their hand raised. So I'm not sure if they're just listening or if they want to make a comment. So
Did they probably then don't either know how to press *9, or do press *9, or are just listening.
correct. I think, you've stated to press *9 to raise your hand. They've now had ample time to do that. I do not see their hand raised. Therefore, I do not see any public comment at this time. I would state, however, that Rick Collins is now joining video. He is currently muted. Thank you.
I see Rick there. Well, if the person hasn't pushed the *9, I'm going to close the general public comment. We will move on to item 5, presentations and special reports, and that's County Administrator Controller Margaret McAvoy. Margaret, I'm going to turn this over to you.
I would like to start my public comment expressing a great sense of gratitude. Back again. We'll try. Maybe I'm talking too loud. Maybe that's what. Can you still hear me if I talk this way?
That is better.
Okay. And everybody at the board can hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah.
I would like to start out by saying thank you to all of our law enforcement personnel, especially the sheriff's office, including the corrections officers. I'd also like to thank Central Dispatch and the Emergency Management Department for the fabulous job they are doing. Law enforcement in our community in general, but our sheriff's office particularly. I also want to thank all of the frontline medical personnel. I have 2 doctors and 2 nurses in my family, and I can't tell you how much the medical personnel in our country is doing for us. I also want to thank all of the employees. There's not that many of them outside of the sheriff's office and Central Dispatch and Emergency Management who are working full-time, but many of us are working full-time, sometimes on site, mostly remotely or from home. Occasionally, folks from the court have to come in. I come in, members of the staff at registered deeds comes in, the county clerk's office, the treasurer, and I know that the prosecutor, and I know there's others that are doing that too. I just want to thank them and commend them for their efforts on behalf of the public and say how proud I am to serve with them each and every day. So some of my report today is going to be pretty COVID centered because that's what most of what my efforts have been, but I just have some other general comments made too. And I'm not sure this is all in the best order, so just please bear with me. I've had multiple calls and Zoom meetings regarding the Michigan Indigent Defense Commission plans and cost allocation analysis moving forward for FY21 and also about the FY21 contract and some other things having to do with the commission regarding grant manuals and those types of things. I have participated since the closure here in 2 very long Zoom meetings at the commission. That's kind of where I had my first experiences with Zoom. So I'm feeling pretty comfortable tonight after all the other ones that we participated in. I had the honor of being asked to serve on the statewide virtual courtroom task force, along with our chief judge, Eric Janes. There were a number of judges from across the state appointed to that and a very limited number of county administrators. 2 of us, as a matter of fact, 2 county clerks and a deputy county executive. And we met with the state court administrator's office and the state Supreme Court Chief Justice, had a great presentation by the Texas State Court Administrator's Office. Since the COVID outbreak, they have transitioned a great deal of their court cases to Zoom. And their experience was fabulous. In the first couple weeks of the closure down there, they purchased 3,000 Zoom licenses for 3,000 judges across the state of Texas and transitioned most of their non-trial hearings. So it was great listening to them, listening to their, this worked out well, that didn't work out well. Wonderful experience serving on that. We had very limited meetings, but the State Court Administrator's Office has released a 9-page standards and guidelines document. I could happy to email it to you. If you're interested in receiving a copy, just email me and let me know. I'll be happy to send it to you. There's a lot of links in there about all sorts of requirements, issues, and things that the State Court Administrator is going to be moving forward with this virtual courtroom situation as we move forward. I had multiple calls, speaking of Judge Janes, with Judge Janes to mutually discuss and agree on some COVID-19 workplace issues, closures, press releases, letters to staff, etc., and other related issues. It's been a pleasure to work with Chief Judge Janes. He and I have a great working relationship, and I can't thank him enough, he and Carrie, for their cooperative spirit and how well we've worked together through this. I am participating in a Monday, Wednesday, and Friday Zoom meetings with Mark Stuhldreher from Union Township and Nancy Ridley from the city to assure good communication between the 3 municipalities and some mutual support and some brainstorming between the 3 of us. You know, during the flood, when the EOC was physically open, we were in very close quarters for a long time, and we worked very well together, and it brought us closer together. The EOC is now open virtually, so we haven't had that opportunity to sit right next to each other for 15 or 18 days. So doing this virtual brain trust, as it's been referred to, at least two of them, that's the way at least. It's been very helpful to us. Zoom meetings, Union Township transitioned to Zoom board meetings first. Nancy and I participated in their test run as members of the quote unquote public. And then the city did their first one, I believe last week. And so we're doing our first one. It's the movement moving forward by most municipalities, but it's been fun to participate together and learn from each other. And I want to tip my hat to Mark Stuhldreher, who gave us a lot of tips and ideas moving into this system and way of doing things. I want to talk about that I've identified Chris Whitmer of my staff and assigned to her to be the county go-to person for all COVID-19 expenses record keeping. Get registered with the state and the FEMA portal. So as we move forward here, we want to make sure that we're doing a great job of accounting for and reporting all of our COVID-19 related expenses, and that should there become a possibility to request reimbursement for any of those, we're prepared to do that. You know, after the flood, that was something of going back and trying to figure all that out. We've kind of been there before, done that now, we know better. And so Chris has registered us through FEMA and through the Michigan State Police Emergency Management portals. So if there's any possible reimbursement moving forward, we can be positioned to do that. And I'm very happy I assigned her to do that. She is on it. I determined soon after this whole thing hit that we would need to move to Zoom for our Board of Commissioners meetings until further notice, and identified that the Zoom meeting team that I put together was myself, Nicole Frost, Michelle Doherty, and Mindy Lux originally. The 3 of us met on Zoom. We talked about how to get this off the ground, how to make this work, how to make it seem as painless as possible, make sure we were getting the public information, talk about how we were going to YouTube it and stream it, how to make sure everybody was trained, how to make sure everybody had the same information, that we had the policies and the procedures. So Mindy and Nicole and I and Michelle met, expanded the team to include Brenda Young of the clerk's office and Jessica Jarazowitz of my office. We had multiple meetings. It was pretty clear to me early on that I needed to appoint somebody to be the lead person on this, because that needed to have a lot of attention. It needed to have somebody who had great technical skills, great writing skills, and somebody who was going to be able to train everybody and work together. So I appointed Nicole to be the lead person to assure that the Board of Commissioners members and the team were comfortable, informed, and trained in Zoom, to prepare the needed documents, to do the training. And I know that you will all join me, and Nicole has done a fabulous job with this. And I couldn't have asked for a better partner in this. I would say that since the day Nicole walked in our doors 2.5 years ago, but she has taken this and has done a great job, and I can't be more thankful. I'm going to estimate that in the last 2 weeks, probably an estimated 60 hours were spent on getting everything in place. The preponderance of those hours spent by Nicole. A great effort also by Michelle, who has intensely been involved on the IT end and the YouTube channel end. And I want to thank everybody on that team, Mindy, Michelle, Nicole, Jessica, and Brenda. But the preponderance of the kudos need to go to Nicole. So Nicole has got herself off the video and she can't see me, but I know that whenever you guys see her again and get the chance, the success for tonight lies with her. So great job, Nicole. Thank you very much. I've been very involved with Michigan Association of Counties and sharing information back and forth. I will honestly tell you, there are days that there's just probably over 100 emails in between administrator controllers going back and forth and MAC regarding a lot of multiple COVID-19 issues. One of the things that I have found to be very interesting is last week, MAC did a survey of administrator controllers requesting us to explain to them how many of the counties had initiated layoffs and or furloughs. So last week, 73 out of the 83 counties responded. One of the counties had laid off 15 employees and 6 counties had very few furloughs. Yesterday, I received the latest report back from MAC of, I think the questionnaire went out Friday and we answered it through Friday and yesterday. So about 2/3 of the counties responded by late yesterday afternoon. I received this sometime about 7 or 7:30 last night. And out of the 2/3 of the counties, so 2/3 of 83 counties, fewer than 10 counties had initiated any furloughs or layoffs at that time. And I think that is kind of a way of us reassuring that the decisions that were made here seem to be pretty supported by decisions made across the state. Now, of course, we can all read that the Genesee County had over 130 layoffs yesterday, and I know that, and that's sad. I have friends and colleagues who work at Genesee County, and I can't imagine how difficult that decision has been for them. But you have to remember, they also have over 1,000 employees, so it's all relative. But I wanted to let you know that those are the types of things that we are working on together as administrators and controllers across the state. And it's nice to be able to talk to your colleagues and kind of see what's going on with other people and what they're doing. Genesee County, I just saw my note, they have 1,100 employees and they temporarily laid off 130. I hope that we don't end up in that spot, but we are looking at policies and procedures and plans and options moving forward in case we have to reduce the workforce. I attended a number of webinars and other online activities with COVID-19 and in governmental situations. I'm trying to stay on top of it, and it takes a lot of time to stay on top of how Isabella County needs to be prepared to respond to things like the executive orders, which there have been a large number of requirements. In Executive Order 2020-42, when Governor Whitmer expanded the stay-at-home policy, this order, she also referred in that order to an OSHA document. And have your workforce come back at any level during this, you're going to have to meet these standards. The handbook from OSHA to meet those, to put your plan together, was 35 pages. That was the plan document of how to do your plan. County administrators, controllers finally realized, why would 83 of us be putting together 83 different documents to try to meet this? Maybe we should try to do that more efficiently. So a number of us referred that to the Michigan Municipal Risk Management Association. And within a number of days, they sent us back a plan, a policy, all of the documents we would need. You could literally, if you wanted to, insert your name and move on. But again, that's another big issue for us of, when we start to do the return to work, how we're going to do the return to work, how we're going to phase that in, how we're going to make sure our employees are safe in the workplace. We need to still be maintaining, which I'm sure we will, distancing and other things. How are we going to do that? Trying to make sure we have the equipment we need to do that, and looking at a phase-in approach that might make sense to us. Looking at how federal How does the federal stimulus package affect us? How does the Families First Coronavirus Response Act affect us? How does CARES affect us? Frankly, we're not eligible for CARES because we don't have a population of 500. So the CARES legislation is nothing that we can apply for. We can't take advantage of that. That is earmarked for counties of 500,000 or more. The Coronavirus Emergency Supplemental Funding, or SESF, Isabella County is not eligible for that either, just so you know, because per Department of Justice, only entities who had received a justice assistance grant previously are eligible to apply. We are not eligible to apply. I had Nicole talk to somebody from that department yesterday personally to make sure there isn't some way we can get eligible. No, there's not, because we didn't have that grant before. But there are other funds hopefully moving forward that we will be eligible for. And we do believe that I know the governor has requested through the White House and through FEMA that there be some other reimbursements coming back to us. And like I said earlier in my report, we're working very hard to make sure we're going to be well positioned to apply for those and have the justification needed for that as it comes back. What type of expenses could that be? Well, it could be like things like the personal protection equipment that we placed an order last week, 2 weeks ago, on behalf of law enforcement and firefighters across the community. We placed one order. Hopefully we'll get that in. We will then disperse that out. Those municipalities will be paying us back for that as time becomes appropriate after the crisis is over. On the other hand, if we can get reimbursed for all of it, all the better. You know, we're looking at things like overtime through our law enforcement office, through the corrections office. Hopefully we'll be able to be reimbursed for that. We're looking at the costs of, I'm going to use the term Clorox wipe, but other sanitary wipes, you know, hand sanitizer if you can find it, non-medical masks for our employees, gloves, those types of things. There's different levels of those types of personal protection equipment that we need. Law enforcement, of course, and medical people need a higher level of that. But if we're going to bring our workforce back, and we're going to be bringing them back on some type of an issue, you know, whether it's May 1st or May 10th or whatever it is, we're not going to be able to bring 275 people back and have them sit next to each other. That's not going to happen. I'm sure it's going to be I'm trying to think of what word, some type of a measured response. We're still going to have to be providing those types of equipment to our employees. Trying to find enough gloves, trying to find enough non-surgical masks, just the kind of masks, trying to find enough alcohol wipes, trying to find enough hand sanitizers. Those are big issues for us. We have a large workforce for this community. You know, we don't have a large workforce compared to Wayne County or Kent County, but in Isabella County, we have a pretty good sized workforce. And we want to make sure when people come back to work that we can keep them safe. That is, I know, all of your priorities. So also been spending a lot of time on a variety of employee issues, making sure and assuring that payroll and accounts payable is always provided. Last thing we want to do is miss somebody's payroll or not pay our bills on time. That's not the type of thing we want to be doing now. And considering our options to safely reopen our operations. So I want to also recognize again all the employees who are coming in and or working full-time from home. I want to recognize the employees of the Administrator Controller's Office. They have done a great job. We have a Zoom staff meeting every Monday morning at 9 o'clock so we can see each other's faces and make sure during this time we all stay connected. And I can't tell you how hard they are working along with other employees across the county, elected officials, the courts, and law enforcement employees to make sure that we're still providing services to the public at the level that we can do that reasonably given the situation that we are under. And last but not least, I attended the tax allocation board meeting yesterday that indeed, according to state statute, organized for us and Commissioner Horton chaired. I don't serve on the committee, but I was at the meeting and you're going to hear later on, I don't know if that will come up to today's meeting, but eventually you'll be seeing that they did vote to leave all the millages at where they currently are. So that was a good meeting to have. And with that, I'm going to conclude my comments. I'm happy to either take questions now or to hold them for later on in the meeting if you would like to do that.
Any questions for Margaret this time? Moving on then, gentlemen, we'll go to item 6, which is the appointments to board and commissions. Commissioner Engler, would you like to read that, please?
Sure. The motion reads, move to accept with regret the resignation of Denise Webster from the Isabella County Recovery Facility Advisory Board effective immediately.
Supported by Commissioner Jelazinski.
It's been moved and
Yeah,
supported
Denise.
to approve with regret the resignation of Denise Webster. Discussion.
Yeah, Denise has been our chairperson on the Material Recovery Board for the last couple of years. Unfortunately, she's retiring and be moving out of the district. So we actually tried to keep her on about as long as until the moving van moved out of there, but she agreed to stay there until then. So she's going to be sorely missed, and we'll be looking for somebody to replace her. So.
Any other discussion? I believe I was with Denise there. In fact, I sat on the board with Commissioner Engler, and she's got recycling in her blood. She's fun to be with as a chair, and she really tries to learn a lot about recycling, and the director over there, Jake, to get things done. So she will be missed. Any additional discussion? Hearing no further discussion, Madam Clerk, a roll call, please.
Mindy, you're
Mindy?
muted.
Are you muted, Mindy?
No.
There you go.
A roll call, please.
Commissioner Jelazinski,
Yes.
Commissioner Horton,
Yes.
Commissioner Marino,
Yes.
Commissioner Swaney,
Yes.
Commissioner Hope,
Yes.
Commissioner Engler,
Yes.
Commissioner Green.
Yes.
Number of votes cast is 7, ayes received 7, nays received 0. Motion passed, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. That moves us on to the consent agenda, and Commissioner Steve Swaney, would you like to read that, please?
Yes, Chair Green. Consent agenda motion reads, move to approve and place on file the March 17th, 2020 regular meeting minutes.
Is there support?
Engler support. Engler support.
Been moved and supported to approve the consent agenda as read. Madam Clerk, a roll call, please.
Commissioner Horton,
Yes.
Commissioner Marino,
Yes.
Commissioner Swaney,
Yes.
Commissioner Hope,
Yes.
Commissioner Engler,
Yes.
Commissioner Jelazinski,
Yes.
Commissioner Green.
Yes.
Number of votes cast is 7, the ayes received 7, nays received 0. Motion passed, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. That moves us on to committee reports, finance and administration. Gentlemen?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's kind of weird to see yourself talk here myself, so this is talking into a mirror, but we're going to give it our best shot here.
There you go.
First up, March 19th, 2020 corrected routine personnel. Motion reads, move to accept and place on file the March 19th corrected routine personnel items as presented.
Support, Commissioner Hope.
It's been moved and supported to approve the March 19th, 2020 routine personnel items. Discussion.
Everything is routine, sir. We had a resignation, 3 new hires, a step increase, and a department transfer.
Pretty cut and dried.
Yep.
And any other discussion? Hearing no further discussion, Madam Clerk, a roll call, please.
Commissioner Marino,
Yes.
Commissioner Swaney,
Yes.
Commissioner Hope,
Yes.
Commissioner Engler,
Yes.
Commissioner Jelazinski,
Yes.
Commissioner Horton,
Yes.
Commissioner Green.
Yes.
Number of votes is 7, the ayes received 7, the nays received 0. Motion passed, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Okay, item number 2 then is the March 13th, 2020 invoice list, the March 20th, 2020 invoice list, the March 27th, 2020 invoice list, the April 3rd, 2020 invoice list, the April 10th, 2020 invoice list, the March 26th, 2020 adjustment list, and the April 15th, 2020 adjustment list. Motion reads, move to ratify and place on file the March 13th, 2020 invoice list in the amount of $2,036,812.96 the March 20th, 2020 invoice list in the amount of $564,193.30. The March 27th, 2020 invoice list in the amount of $103,893.68. The April 3rd, 2020 invoice list in the amount of $144,109.79. The April 10th, 2020 invoice list in the amount of $114,968.82. The adjustment list dated March 26, 2020, and the adjustment list dated April 15th, 2020.
Support by Horton.
It's been moved and supported to approve the March 13th, 2020 invoice list, the March 20th, 2020 invoice list, the March 27th, 2020 invoice list, April 3rd, 2020 invoice list, April 10th, 2020 invoice list, March 26th, 2020 adjustment list, and the April 15th, 2020 adjustment list. Discussion.
Okay, obviously quite a few lists because we've kind of put off business for a little while, but the checks have still been flowing. The lights have stayed on. As Margaret said in her report, people have gotten paid. So I'll just touch on some of the over 5,000 amounts that end up on the front page here. On March 13th, we have several tax distributions. The typical youth treatment costs that we see, monthly credit card charges, and the second installment of 2019 forfeiture searches, $7,000 to Benford Land Services. For March 20th, and we also have several tax distributions. The Vanguard Records search, $31,000 to Cofile Technologies, $6,000 to Land and Resource Engineering for Mission Creek Drain Engineering Services. The Consumer's Energy bill for building number 1. The HAT biweekly contract for $5,961. $40,000 to Michigan State University for third quarter MOA work plan, and the $11,500 monthly equalization contract cost for Preston Community Services. Next would be March 27th, and we have $12,111 to Manor Casterian for February accounting services, $6,150 for the third audit progress billing to Reuben Robson Incorporated, delinquent tax interest payout to Chip Hill Schools for $82.81, and our monthly day treatment contract for McBride Quality Care in the amount of $38,885.74. April 3rd list, several public defender appointments for March, adding up to roughly $40,000. $29,294 to WellPath LLC for the monthly medical services contract for the Sheriff's Department. That is the medical services for the jail inmates. $5,000 to Wade Promotions for the transit ad, for the census grant, the MML census grant, and then the HATS biweekly contract payment again. The April 10th list has $7,512 for monthly credit card charges. The monthly equalization contract for Preston Community Services again. Our fire pit rings from the DNR grant for Coldwater Lake that we talked about the last meeting. March district and probate court transmittals in the amount of $29,503 to the state of Michigan, and 2 payments to Business Information Systems for annual remote hardware contract for the trial court and software and hardware contract with that remote support. And then the adjustment lists, we have the typical Gordon Food Service that we always pay early to get the payment discount. A couple of manual checks added for tax settlements, an entry error of 3 cents that was found. A check for Speed Tech equipment for deposit on a upfeed belt. I assume that sounds like something that's for the MRF.
Yes.
I see Margaret nodding her head. Yeah, okay.
Yes.
And then a manual check of $358,000 for tax settlement for Union Township. March 20th, we had the Gordon Food Service early payments again in invoice entry error amounting to $20. It was corrected. And a cash on delivery payment for a sheriff vehicle delivery. Then we have on April 15th, we have the March 27th list, Gordon Food Service again. One invoice voided to Frontier that was a duplicate. Gordon Food Service, and entry error and a $212.55 check, a 5-cent error on that, $5 error that was found on another check to Waste Management. And Mr. Chairman, that concludes those lists. I don't know if any of the commissioners have any questions on any of that.
Is there any additional discussion amongst commissioners? That was quite a long list, Tobin.
I need a drink of water after all that.
Go ahead.
I have a question, Mr.
Yes,
Chairman.
Eric.
I noticed that there's, this is the March 13th invoice list, this adjustment list, and there's 3 manual checks for 2019 tax settlements. They're substantial. I guess, what is the background on those? They're not tax distribution.
I would think that would be a question for the treasurer's office. I can ask them to contact you or to discuss that with you.
Okay,
Would you like me to do that?
I can contact Mr. Pickens.
Okay, Mr. Pickens, I think it's, you might want to try Kathleen's number.
Okay,
You call in and ask for Kathleen.
thank you.
You're welcome, sir.
Any other discussions? Hearing no further discussions, Madam Clerk, can we have another roll call, please?
Commissioner Swaney,
Yes.
Commissioner Hope,
Yes.
Commissioner Engler,
Yes.
Commissioner Jelzinski,
Yes,
Commissioner Horton,
Yes.
Commissioner Marino,
Yes,
Commissioner Green.
Yes,
Number of votes cast is 7. The ayes received 7, nays received 0. Motion passed, Mr. Chairman.
thank you. Item
Next
number
up-
3.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Next up is Isabella County Transportation Commission ballot language. Motion reads, move to approve the ballot language for the renewal of Isabella County Transportation Commission millage to be placed on the August 4th, 2020 primary election ballot.
Support, Commissioner Hope.
It's been moved and supported to approve the Isabella County Transportation Commission ballot language. Discussion.
Mr. Chairman, we have Mr. Rick Collins in our video screen here, and he is the Executive Director of the Isabella County Transportation Commission. Rick, if you would like to go ahead and add anything?
Sure. I don't have a lot to add. I mean, this is pretty routine. 4 years, every 4 years, we get together to do this. You all can hear me, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I bought this headset to tone out my family and I didn't know if it was working, but
Let me know if that works for you. I'll buy a couple.
It's
of
working
them.
there, but yeah, this is definitely an interesting thing. I do appreciate the time. The renewal that we submitted to you was using estimated numbers from equalization from 2019. Earlier today, we received updated numbers that I believe you all have as well. The millage, if levied in full, is estimated to raise $1.962 million with the latest numbers from equalization versus what we submitted to you in return. But
Rick, can you speak up a little better? Move.
Yeah.
This is thank you.
This is a continuation, a renewal of the same levy we've been levying since 2004. I'm happy to answer any questions you all may have.
Any questions for Rick?
Now, Rick, have you in the last month and a half, what has been, or have you seen a decrease in the amount of riders, increase in the amount of riders, staying the same? What is your staff doing as far as taking any special precautions or anything?
Sure. In regards to this COVID, yes, our ridership has significantly decreased. We're running about 80% of normal ridership. With that being said, every day, Monday through Saturday, we're carrying somewhere between 250 to 350 passengers per day, all essential transportation. So these are people going to get supplies from the stores. They're people going to their dialysis appointments. They're going to their doctor's appointments. We're doing everything we can to try to set up delivery services. For example, when the Compassion Network does their food pantry days, rather than taking people to get the food, we prefer to take the food to the people, try to limit exposure in that regard. So we've been doing that. As far as precautions on the buses, very early on, back March 13th-ish or so, when this really started becoming a real deal in Isabella County, we installed Clorox wipes on all of our buses available to our passengers. We are disinfecting our buses multiple times a day, and we've recently installed the plexiglass shields in the space between the bus driver and the passenger entry door to help distance there. Of course, all of our employees have face coverings available to them and personal protection equipment that they may need, hand sanitizer and all the like.
Thank you.
Yes.
Any other discussion for Rick or questions? Jerry?
Nope.
Okay, it's been moved and supported to approve the language on the ballot. Madam Clerk, a roll call, please.
Commissioner Hope,
Yes.
Commissioner Engler,
Yes.
Commissioner Jelzinski,
Yes.
Commissioner Horton,
Yes.
Commissioner Marino,
Yes.
Commissioner Swaney,
Yes.
Commissioner Green.
Yes.
Number of votes cast is 7. The ayes received 7, nays received 0. Motion passed, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Well, Rick, you're ready to go, so call for the vote now.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rick. Okay, item number 4 is 2020 Equalization Report, STC Form L 4024. The motion reads, move to approve the 2020 Equalization Report on the STC Form L-4024 as presented by the Equalization Department and required by the state statute, and authorize the chairperson of the Board of Commissioners and the county clerk to sign the same and direct it to be filed with the county clerk's office and with the state tax commission in a timely manner.
Support by Horton.
It's been moved and supported to approve the 2020 Equalization Report, STC Form L 4024. Discussion.
Okay, we all received this in our email. It came from Jessica the other day. And I think Pete Preston is here. He's going to walk us through it.
Okay, I will do that. If you folks bear with me here and my lack of expertise in this as well. My kids were kind enough to show me Zoom fails on YouTube so I could see how horribly it goes wrong for others. So I'll try to prevent that. So just as a recap, every year we do studies, and we do those studies in order to give the assessors a target. for them to meet with their assessment roles the next year. So we are into 2020 and the assessors have finished up at the March Board of Review. Our role right now is to determine if the assessors have met that target and either factor them so that they do meet that target, and for the board to establish that, yes, the county has been quote unquote equalized. So every year we're up against it as far as timeline between the close of March Board of Review. They can go up to, I think it's April 10th. We don't like them to go that far because it doesn't give us enough time to get our data into our system. So once again, you've received information right before or at the meeting. So I'd like to, as Margaret did earlier, commend county staff. Everyone has been great keeping us connected. Judy Niznak has done a phenomenal job getting all that data in under these circumstances. So I'd like to give her the kudos deserved for that. So if I may, I'd like to try to share my screen now to essentially give you just a brief rundown of where we are at.
Go ahead, Pete.
Can you all see the screen that I have up?
Yep. Yes.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
wonderful. So this is the staff report, and you see we have down there recommendation is for, as described earlier, to approve the L 4024, which is the equalization report, and for the clerk and the chair to sign, as well as Scott Cunningham, your equalization director. The next sheet, of course, there it goes. Okay, the next sheet is Scott's certification page. Nothing major here, just that he certifies that the numbers on the 4024 are met. The next three pages are the 4024 form. I've done some highlights here. This is just the totals. Again, you folks have been provided this. So this is the overall assessed value now for Isabella County by class and unit. The next two sheets, there's no factor. So every unit met the target number. So I'm going to dance between these two. As you can see, they're same sheets. There's no change. But again, you have that information, and that's what we've come up with. To give you some ideas of what has changed since 2019, at the bottom of your screen, you'll see a series of arrows. The green arrow is the 2020 county assessed valuation. So it's $2,546,760,869. And last year, the blue arrow, 2019, was $2,438,447,745. That's an increase of 108 million and some change, which we see the assessed value going up in the county overall 4.44%. That's an interesting number because we saw some real differentiations in commercial sales, and I think that's what kind of drove that number down just a bit. But still, that doesn't mean that it's not. It shows a stable community as far as we're concerned, because there's a lot of adjustments that are taking place out there over the year. So we're looking at a 4.44% increase in assessed value, which is what we estimate to be half of market value. The next slide is my skip slide, because this is really complicated to explain and really has no merit in this, because the next one concisely adjusts to it. So I'll move on to the next slide. This is a little clearer. The first, top row is the county assessed value by class. And so the green box on the top row is agricultural class properties that went up 3% on assessed value. Commercial actually went down on assessed value. Again, we're on the top row. The red box is commercial. The purple box is industrial, went up 4%. What we saw is a lot of turnover in industrial property in the county, because we also saw the taxable value increase greater than the consumer price index. The yellow box is residential, that went up 4%. Now I mentioned the CPI, that's the increase in taxable value if the property does not transfer. It's a normal increase. That was at 1.9. The second row here, the green box again is agricultural. The taxable value, this is taxable now, went up 2.96%. Commercial, even though its assessed value dropped, it went up 1.21%. That means there was a lot of transfer in commercial property. The industrial, even though the assessed went up 4%, the taxable went up 5.56%, meaning we saw a lot of turnover in industrial property. In residential, 2.75, which is very close to that 1.9. That teal box to your right there, if you can, I don't know if you can see my cursor, but there's a teal box there. You can see that industrial personal property went up 96%. Well, wind turbines are industrial personal property. So that's where you're seeing that heavy duty increase. And that's all, 99% of it is related to the Code Township wind energy project. So there's our 4.44% increase in assessed value. And surprisingly, a 4.69% increase in taxable value. Some of that comes from the wind turbines, but some of that comes from just a lot of activity in the market over the last 2 years of our study period. So I give you these increases. What does that mean to the county overall? Coming up for the next levy, I will take you to the next sheet, and I'm going to have some arrows again. The green arrow again represents the 2020 county taxable value, and the blue arrow is the 2019. The yellow oblong over here, that is the county taxable value increase. So we saw a taxable value increase of $88,558,924. What does that mean to the county's levy and what the increase would be from last year? And that would be over here by these arrows. So it's looking like that the taxable value increase from last year would relate into a revenue collection of approximately $585,000 more in the summer. That does not take into account capture, any tax tribunals that go through, or any other items that could affect a taxable value during the normal assessment year. So that's the end of it. How does this affect the county? I would say that of that $585,000 increase to the county's general fund, approximately $250,000 of that extra revenue is from the wind turbine project. So I'll be happy to answer any questions, and I can leave the screen up or take it down.
Or any questions from anybody for Pete?
Real quick,
Pete, go
I'm
ahead.
sorry. Real quick question. Do we have this in our documents? Because the sheets we're looking at now, I didn't see mine.
No, those were just prepared today. We did submit them to be emailed to you. You may have received them by email, but it would have been today.
Okay, maybe I missed them or didn't look like that. Okay. I'll find them. If not, if we could get those emailed, that'd be great.
Yes.
Any other questions for Pete? Pete, I have a couple of questions. Because the coal windmill equalization, the industrial personal property tax %, is that the top? Because last year there was some industrial personal property tax. So does this mean that it's at its peak right now, that it'll ever be?
Yes, for the Township project.
Right. And the next question I have is, I always see timber cutover on the state, that the state actually adopts a zoning, so to speak, on different parcels, but it's never used. Is it used at all in the state of Michigan, do you know?
Yes, and it gets to be further north where they have more of a timber managed lands, that there's actually transfer of properties that are primary use is for timber. And so it's an entirely different class of property. It's just not, very seldom is it used downstate or even in the central part of the state. So we get more up north to the UP and northern Michigan, it's used more.
Okay, thank you. Any other discussion for Pete or questions? Pete, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Folks.
Further discussion?
Thank you, Pete. All right.
Madam Clerk, a roll call, please.
Commissioner Engler,
Yes.
Commissioner Jelzinski,
Yes.
Commissioner Horton,
Yes.
Commissioner Marino,
Yes.
Commissioner Swaney,
Yes.
Commissioner Hope,
Yes.
Commissioner Green.
Yes,
Number of votes is 7, ayes received 7, nays received 0. Motion passed, Mr. Chairman.
thank you. Thank you, Pete.
Next up, on the Finance Administration Committee's agenda, fiscal year 2021 budget calendar. Motion reads, move to adopt Isabella County fiscal year 2021 budget calendar as presented.
Support, Commissioner Hope.
It's been moved and supported to approve fiscal year 2021 budget calendar. Discussion.
I'll let Administrator Controller McAvoy address this if she wants to, but as presented here, the first date on it is April 21st, the budget calendar presented to Board of Commissioners. I will add that they're highlighted and boldened and everything in red because this is preliminary. Definitely, this is probably going to be subject to change. But in May, we've got something going on, and then she does have June 8th and some specific dates. Hopefully, she'll be able to keep those. Hopefully, the stuff that we're going to encounter as a county is not, well, it's pretty serious. But again, Margaret, I'll let you address this if you want to say anything on it. So we've seen this before. It's pretty much a straightforward schedule. So, but
Sure, I felt it was necessary, preliminary and subject to change because of the pandemic. You know, a couple of things that are not going to change. Required by law to have the Board of Commissioners pass a balanced budget by September 30th. Because your budget calendar year starts October 1st. So you'll note that I always give us plenty of time. I always want us to have that budget passed well before the 30th in case something were to happen. You know, in case something happens and the Board of Commissioners would have to hold a special meeting, that would give us time to do that between the 15th and the 30th to meet all the Open Meetings Act and everything else. Public hearing and a meeting. So, you know, we start there and we work backwards. I will tell you, my team's already started working some on the budget, putting together our packets, getting ourselves ready to go. I did take a specific date off in May to meet with elected officials and department heads. We always do a budget workshop. We will do that again in May. I just didn't want to list a specific date, not knowing for sure when the stay-at-home order would or would not be lifted and what the back to work procedure would look like. So we're certainly planning on going ahead and holding that in May and moving on down through the calendar and hitting target dates. But I felt it was only fair to say that it could change some given the pandemic.
Any additional discussion?
I have something to add, and I hope that consideration will be given for expanding our IT department. As we can see right now, we're using a lot more technology than we ever have before. And I think that would be a very good addition to the budget to have more people in the IT department, more qualified professionals.
Any other discussion? Madam Clerk, a roll call, please.
Commissioner Jelzinski,
Yes.
Commissioner Horton,
yes.
Commissioner Marino,
Yes.
Commissioner Swaney,
Yes.
Commissioner Hope,
Yes.
Commissioner Engler,
Yes.
Commissioner Green.
Yes,
Number of votes is 7, the ayes received 7, nays received 0. Motion passed, Mr. Chairman.
thank you.
Mr. Chairman, that completes the work of the Finance and Administration Committee.
I left some stuff out of my. If I may.
Yes, go ahead.
I
There's,
just said to the chairperson, I moved something over on my side of the dais here and found a whole huge section of my report I didn't give. So if you would indulge me to go back perhaps and fill in some of those blanks.
I would, go ahead, Margaret, and
Is that okay?
Take your time.
Is that okay with the board members?
do you have a problem with that?
So I receive a email every morning at 6:31 a.m. from the governor's office. And that email is an update. Sometimes it actually comes from a couple different people, but generally from Melanie Brown. And it's an update on the coronavirus. And so I want to give you some information regarding the update as of, the information is updated at 3 o'clock. So I got this information this morning. It's as of 3 o'clock yesterday. So I kind of wanted to go through some of these statistics with you. I have shared some of these statistics, these reports occasionally with Commissioner Horton, because I know as a professional, he has had some specific interests and abilities, and I'm happy to forward it to any of the rest of you who might like to receive it. So as of 3 o'clock yesterday, April 20th, this report was released this morning. Isabella County has 52 cases with unfortunately 7 reported deaths. And I know that I'm sure we are all aware that there have been a number of cases at the medical care facility, and our thoughts and our prayers are with not only the patients there, but the staff and their families. How does that look compared to other counties? This might be of interest to you. Midland has had 47 confirmed cases. So we had, what's that, 5 more? Had 3 reported deaths. Bay County, I'm just kind of looking at our region. Bay County has had 85 confirmed cases. Clare County has had 9. Gratiot County has had 8. And obviously, Saginaw County, much larger county, has had 419 cases. So as you have all seen in the news, you know, the preponderance of cases are down in the southeast part of the state. However, when you look at where we are, I was looking at a report, as a matter of fact, last week, I was looking at a report from March 31st. It was the same report. And at that time, there were less than 100 cases in the state of Michigan. And as of the report this morning, there were 32,000. So when you look at that statistically, it's sobering, you know. So when I talked about in my, the previous half of my report, when I talked about all of the issues that this brings up, and I would want to take this opportunity to say this, you know, in this particular emergency, the lead agency in dealing with this emergency is the Public Health Department across the state, across the entire country. And Central Michigan District Health Department, from my viewpoint, has done a tremendous job. What they're doing. And I can tell you, they have a lot on their plate. Unfortunately, medical care facilities, memory care facilities, assisted living centers across the country are being just hard hit by this. And I certainly do not want to give any impression that, you know, we're being hit any harder than any other of those institutions. The medical care facility here is a fabulous institution. They are not part of county government. They don't report to me. They don't report to the Board of Commissioners. They have their own board. Many of us have had loved ones there, family, friends, neighbors, a fellow commissioner at one time. I know that that's a very difficult population for them. So I wanted you to know those statistics. Right now, the average age of data across the state for age of cases is interesting, because I think most of us had the impression that those of us who are over 60 and over were going to be the population that was going to be the hardest hit. And we certainly are the most vulnerable. But I think it's quite tragic that, you know, yesterday a 5-year-old child in Detroit died. I believe her mother is a police officer and her father is a firefighter. You know, when you see this happen to children at that age, that's quite upsetting. But when you look at the overall cases by age, you know, 1% of them are between 0 and 19 years of age, 9% between 20 and 29, 13 between 30 and 39, 16 between 40 and 49, 19 between 50 and 59, 18 between 60 and 69, 13% between 70 and 79, and 11% over 80. So if you look at that and you look at from 50 and below, that's a large part, much larger than I think we anticipated as a country would be the age that people would be affected in. You know, the statistics are available on this report by age, they're available by race, they're available by ethnicity, they're available by location. I don't have all of the breakdown specifically. You can go into, frankly, yesterday, or perhaps it is today, the Flint Journal on MLive, they had some other great graphs, which I have seen in Governor Whitmer's press releases. So you would be able to see these too. But Wayne, Oakland, and Macomb counties remain the 3 hardest hit areas of Michigan, with 76.6% of the total confirmed cases. and 82% of the deaths, and they represent 39% of our residents. So on the MLive article today in the Flint Journal, they have this map, which is a map of Michigan, and you can click on it and see every single county. But I also just gave you those statistics for our counties. I have every county statistics. And as we move forward here, you know, I think that we all need to be really conscious of what are our weapons of defense. And it appears by all the experts, whether you're listening to Dr. Fauci or you're listening to Dr. Burke, or you're listening to other scientists and other medical experts, you know, our best line of defense is the distancing, the social distancing, the staying home, and to try to avoid contagions and try to avoid each other, which I know has been difficult for all of us. One of the things that I also think we want to talk about is the availability of PPE across the state. And I know that there are many of us and some of you on our board who have family and loved ones in the medical profession. I'll share this, and I know I'm sharing this to the world because we're on YouTube. That's okay with me. I have 2 doctors and 2 nurses in my family. None of them practice in Michigan. So I will tell you that one of the doctors in my family is my niece, and she works at a major medical center on the East Coast. She was telling me the other day that she gets 1 mask a week. And I said to her, how many did you used to get? And she said, I got one between every patient. And so I think as we're looking at, you know, moving forward here, I know we're all struck by the severity of this. We're all trying to do the right things. I would still recommend that everybody who is interested in information go on the Central Michigan District Health website. They have a vast amount of information. Go on CDC, you know, go to reliable sources and get whatever information you can get from a reliable source. But I will tell you, you know, we're talking about I know that governors across the country and the president and everyone else are trying to talk about flattening the curve. And when do you know if the curve has flattened or not? Well, across the country, we have many more tests than we used to have available. So those numbers are still climbing some. But as that curve flattens and we start to come down the other side, I think that we're all going to have to be really vigilant to make sure we don't go back to bad habits. So I wanted to share that COVID information with you. I'm sorry. I spent a lot of time making sure I had that information prepared to share with you. And then I had it underneath the folder and I didn't get to it. So I just wanted to share that with you.
Any questions for Margaret on that report? There'll probably be more discussion of it coming up here shortly. Thank you, Margaret. We'll move on. Commissioner Horton, are you done with your committee report?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, with that, it completes the work of the Finance Administration Committee.
Thank you. Item B is the Criminal Justice and County Affairs that we have no business in. Item C is the Human Resource and Public Works Committee. There's no business. Item D is the Intergovernmental Affairs. There's no business. No business in item E, the Administrator Controller. No unfinished business. Would Commissioner Hope, would you like to read that first item underneath new business about the 2020-04-01 resolution that we're extending the state of emergency in Isabella County?
Well, Mr. Chairman, if I had it right in front of me, I'd be more than happy to. I'm trying to find it here. Does anybody have it handy?
There it is, right there.
I got it handy if you want me to.
Wow, I
Okay.
can read that even. Holy moly.
There it is.
I think Nicole just put it up on the screen for us.
It's still as obscured by the boxes on the right.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, I got it.
Okay.
I can read it. You want me to go ahead? Local state of emergency extension. The resolution reads, you want me to read the whole resolution, I take it?
Yep.
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner Engel.
Whereas on March 17th, 2020, the Isabella County Board of Commissioners, Chairman George A. Green, in accordance with Section 10 of the 1976 PA 390 as amended, declared a state of emergency existed within the Isabella County jurisdiction, and local resources were being utilized to the fullest extent and the response and recovery of our emergency operation plan had been activated, and whereas State of Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer has declared a state of emergency covering the entire state of Michigan to harness the resources of the state to slow the spread of the novel coronavirus, COVID-19, including but not limited to ordering the closure of K through 12 schools buildings through the end of the academic year and issuing 2 stay-at-home executive orders, the most recent effective through April 30th, 2020. And whereas the declaration of the local state of emergency in Isabella County has activated the Isabella County Emergency Operation Plan to direct the jurisdiction's response and recovery efforts and resources to be utilized to the fullest extent possible. And whereas the Isabella County Board of Commissioners have determined it in the best interest to the public health, safety, and welfare of the county, Isabella County, to extend the local state of emergency and take the actions authorized under the Emergency Management Act, Act 390 for 1976, and therefore be it resolved by the Isabella County Board of Commissioners that on April 21st, 2020, the local state of emergency is extended retroactively and shall continue until terminated by the actions of the Isabella County Board of Commissioners.
Is there support for that?
Support by Joe Lozinski.
Did you get that, Mindy?
Got it. Thank you, Chairman.
Okay, it's been moved and supported to resolution is just read. Discussion. Margaret, would you like to?
Well, so the original declaration, much like the original declaration in the flood, was declared by the chairman of the board. I think that there have been some procedural changes at the Michigan State Emergency Management Center. After that happened, after the flood, we didn't have to do any of extensions. It just lasted until it was ended. They have notified us that that original declaration has expired. Why I wrote this to be retroactive. Did some research out of the 83 counties that the majority of the counties that had declared emergencies, about half of them have extended it. The other half didn't, saying, well, the governor declared the state an emergency and the president declared the nation an emergency. We don't think we need to do this again. The other half of us are deciding we should be safe rather than sorry. Make sure if there's any funding that comes available to us in the future. And the question is asked about, show us your current, the day you ask for that funding, state of emergency declaration. I want to make sure that we're covered and we have that. Right. So, rather safe than sorry situations.
Any additional discussion on it? I think it's a great idea, particularly on the funding part. You never know what goes on. And if the funding depends upon whether you extended that or not, that would pay for us. Hearing no further discussion, Madam Clerk, a roll call, please.
Commissioner Horton,
Yes.
Commissioner Marino,
Yes.
Commissioner Swaney,
Yes.
Commissioner Hope,
Yes.
Commissioner Engler,
Yes.
Commissioner Jelzinski,
Yes.
Commissioner Green.
Yes.
Number of votes cast is 7, which the ayes received 7, the nays received 0. Motion passed, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Item number 2 is Commissioner Horton. You're up, Jim.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Real briefly, I just wanted to have a quick discussion. We did not have a chance to have a work session. We have not met in a month with the fellow commissioners. We're addressing right now some unforeseen and unprecedented circumstances. I know the 7.5 years I've been on the county board, I've not seen anything like this, nor in the 57 years of my lifetime have I seen anything like this. As far as where we go as a county, I think we're still under the governor's executive order for the closure of our county and of the state. I haven't heard, Margaret, you can probably answer to this better than I can. I've not heard any changes to that yet. I've not heard any extensions, whether it's going to end. Obviously, the federal government, according to the president, they've came out with a plan to restart or get the economy going. I think that's left up to the individual states and the governors, and as far as the county levels too, that'll probably come down to us. I think as commissioners, we've got a lot of discussions to do. I see this as being what we're done tonight, being a regular part of our agenda, probably coming up in the very near future. I don't know where we're going to stand as far as having special meetings, if that's going to have to be on the agenda. Margaret, you can probably speak to a lot of this because, as we had mentioned before, you just can't flip on a light switch. There's a lot of stuff involved now. I see Mindy up in my top left-hand corner. I don't know how she is on the rest of you guys, but her office has got a lot of work. Steve's office has got Mr. Pickens. The courts have got a lot of work. Sheriff obviously is working. I can't even imagine what that's like right now. But we've got a lot of work in this county and it's unprecedented. And I don't know as a commissioner what we need to be involved in or what we need to be doing. But I think all the commissioners, I don't think I'm speaking out of turn when I say all us, the commissioners, stand ready and to do whatever we can for the county. We're here for our constituents, anybody in the county that wants to call up, ask us questions, see what we're doing. Free. I call out to the public to do that. I mean, I'm sure all your commissioners getting questions from their constituents and friends and neighbors and anybody says, hey, what's going on here? I've had questions in regards to recycling. I've had questions in regards to the parks, those sort of issues. So, and I think that's, as we go forward, those are going to have to be addressed. I think the county, though, is doing everything they can to keep the county safe, to keep the residents safe. And I think as we go forward, this board's going to probably have to meet more than twice a month as far as this goes. I think it's going to be some, like I said, mentioned earlier, unforeseen and unprecedented circumstances. And Margaret, I commend you and the work that you and your staff have done. The endless days and hours, I know just run what I have to do in my real life world. I mean, you're responsible for a lot of employees and you take employees as your children, like I take my employees as my children. They mean the world to me. Their families mean everything. And we're not going to do anything that puts them or the citizens of Isabella County at risk. So again, I stand here or sit here actually. Anything that you need, I'm available. Or the fellow commissioners are available for anything that you need. Again, I thank you for some of the updates. Feel free to CC me on some stuff. I'd like other commissioners. I think we should have probably a regular, even I don't know about a daily report, but if those reports I think are good that I get those numbers. Again, I encourage the county website's great. The CDC website's good. I look at a lot of pharmacy stuff. Obviously that's what I do. I will caution everyone. There's a lot of misinformation out there. I saw one today where somebody was trying to sell me something that wear it around my neck and that'll protect me. Don't buy that, people. So just as we go forward, a lot of misinformation out there, and I want to have Isabella County be the forefront of the correct information. So anything I can do, let's do it. Let's lead in this. So again, this is just a discussion. I wanted some other commissioners to have time to talk about it. If they want, we could have done it in the announcement section, but I think we need to have this as an agenda item. So.
Any additional discussion?
Yeah, Commissioner,
Tobin,
Chair.
go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to say, I think opening the 3 parks that we opened back up was a good idea. And I had a few questions from people, why can't we use the parks? And it's good that we have the ones with playgrounds and the ones that are small are closed off so that people aren't using that. But the ones like Deerfield, Meridian, that are wide open spaces, I know that people want to go out there and just walk the trails, and they're staying away from each other. So that was a good call. One of my concerns, it's not really a question, just a concern, is our jail. And I looked today and I see we're down to just 90 inmates, which was pretty low, pretty atypical, which is good. Still 90 people in that space is a lot of people. I'm sure they're taking every precaution they can to keep the inmates and the staff and everybody safe.
So I will tell you this, one of my I wouldn't say daily, but certainly every other day discussions is with Sheriff Maine. Again, he and his staff are doing a fabulous job. When this whole pandemic hit and the stay-at-home orders happened, there was a request to try to have county inmates that were not a high risk public released, either on personal recognizance or other ways of doing that. And I know that our judges and our prosecutor and our sheriff worked very hard on that together. Another good example of, as Commissioner Horton said, none of us has ever been through this before, but I will tell you that, the leadership and the cooperation here amongst elected officials and the courts and administrators, whatever, we work very well together. And I will use Mindy as an example. When I said to Mindy, would you serve on this Zoom committee? She was like, yes, of course. When do you want us to meet? And, that goes back to my whole discussion about leadership is all about relationships. And if you can't build good relationships in the good times, you're going to be in trouble in the hard times. But the jail, our population is down. But I will tell you, you're right, 90 people in that enclosed area is a big concern. And the jail has done a fabulous job of keeping it healthy and keeping it safe. One of the interesting things I never thought I would buy in my career or authorize the purchase of was a UV light for sanitizing the patrol cars. Who knew? But the sheriff asked for that to happen. We did that. He can also use it to sanitize cells, so that's a great thing. But if you're a road deputy and you're trying to clean out your patrol car when you get it on your shift with Clorox, that probably isn't good enough. So, the sheriff found this UV light. We ordered it. We got it. It's here. I've worked with the sheriff. He's done most of the work. I primarily authorized the purchase, let's be honest. But we had a lot of discussions about this PPE equipment that we have purchased from the county on behalf of the firefighters and the law enforcement. Not only just the county sheriffs, but the city, the Shepherd Village, township firefighters, whatever. Those folks don't have, it's just harder for them to buy those things. And so you're right. The jail population is down, but that's again, mitigating the risk as much as possible. But I want to make it very clear to the commissioners and to the public that no one was released that was to be of any risk to the public's safety.
Mr. Reno?
Yeah, I've had some constituents express concern to me about the parks, about the recycling recovery facility, and also especially about the information being released by the health department, Central Michigan District Health Department. And during the Board of Health call, I read the email that I got, and also I got assurances from the health department that they are starting to collect by the epidemiologist socioeconomic information, and they are going to start on a weekly basis releasing that sort of stuff to the people so they know what's going on. That's reassuring. And I also emailed to the group the dashboard that Mid-Michigan Health Department has, which is the one south of us with 3 counties, like age groups, gender, that sort of thing. I think that'll really go a long way to allay people's apprehension and so forth. So I'm real happy about that. I have also been really participating with the MAC. I saw the Chief Justice give a presentation about the judicial reform, just what we were talking about, the people in the jails and so forth. And also there's more of them coming up. And I encourage the other commissioners to participate, not only in the presentations and webinars, but also get involved in the committees, because like, for instance, I found out that the rainy day fund in Michigan can be used in emergencies, which it certainly is, but they can only take $245 million out of it at a time. And I also found out that we are getting some money from the feds. So I encourage all the other commissioners to get involved with the MAC more, because, and I also learned that in Kalamazoo, they closed the whole county building down completely. And I also heard concerns that some commissioners were concerned about some elected officials not doing anything at all that needs to go on with the committee. So, it's what it is collaboration, sharing, learning from each other, not inventing the wheel over again. Thank you.
So I'd like to address the recycling information, just so the MRF information, so that you have some information if you're getting questions from your constituents. And you can always give them my cell phone too. I talk to people all the time, trust me, so I'm happy to talk to anyone. You know, the situation with the material recovery facility is that for those of you who have been in the processing part of that, past the offices, those of you who've been back there, I'm sure that you were quite struck. I don't want to say that. I guess I was struck the first time I saw it, but I think it's very clear that it would be virtually, I guess impossible is a strong word, but that's the word that comes to mind, to provide the protection that our employees would need back there to process that recycling. If you've ever watched how that recycling comes in, it really comes in and gets dumped on the floor and then gets put with a skid steer, like a mini little forklift, up on the conveyor belt, which then goes up to a second floor catwalk where our employees stand and do this. And they sort the plastic from the tin, from the bottle, from the whatever. And I really cannot find a path forward that we could keep our employees safe doing that job, given the situation that we have. And so, you know, I have worked with Union Township, I've worked with the city. We, as I said, we're having these 3 times a week meetings. They are understanding and supportive of the fact that we are not going to open the recycling center until we can do it safely for our employees, because the health and welfare and safety of my employees is my top priority. I know it's yours too. And I know that there are people in the public who are probably dissatisfied with the recycling piling up in their garage or their basement or their shed or the back porch or the sunroom or wherever they keep their recycling. I certainly appreciate the deep support there is for recycling in this county, and I do appreciate that. But I do not believe it's safe for us to reopen that recycling center at this point and put our employees in that position.
Any other, Jerry Jolozinski?
Recycling is the one thing that I've gotten more contacts on than any other too. And I know I've got a pickup full of stuff that is stored out in my workshop that eventually come in. But the county department heads, elected officials probably should anticipate a unmet demand for services when we do open up, and recycling especially. I think they could be overwhelmed with material. And we've had problems in the past during peak periods where things are outside and blowing all over. Something some advanced planning to manage that amount of material as it comes in after we reopen.
And we are having those discussions with department heads. I will tell you that, including Jake and Nicole are talking on our recycling regularly. I will tell you that I have spent a great deal of time on zoning issues and planning issues with Tim Newport. Working with him, working with an attorney on those, working with information about, you know, what's an essential service, who's an essential employee, what's this, what's that. There's a lot of those discussions going on. The elected officials, I will tell you, when I'm here on site, it's interesting to me because, you know, I like when I see sites in the other places when I walk past, because coming into our buildings are closed, Commissioner Moreno. I mean, our buildings are closed. You know, people aren't coming into this building unless they have key access. And once we closed the buildings on May 20th, we changed the key access. So we contacted all the elected officials and department heads and said, you need to let us know who on your team is going to be considered essential enough to have key access. So there's a lot of employees here who can't get into the buildings anymore out of their own safety and out of the security of the facility. So I will use Mindy and Clerk Lux and I as an example because we're on the screen. You know, we both put in who on our staff would get access. And we have provided that to them as they need to be here. There's very few people in this building. I will tell you that when the facility study was done here, I think I counted there were 110 people one day who were employees in this building. I can tell you that today, I think there were 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe there were 5 people in this building today. And that's the best way to keep people safe. You know, as we can provide services remotely, we can provide services over the phone, on email, on our website. People have to come in and check out the mail. Mindy has to do some, you know, Mindy has to do her vital record stuff here. The treasurer is here taking what they need to do. You know, somebody is here from the treasurer's office, I believe, every day. Somebody's here and I'm here on site 1 or 2 days a week. The prosecutor's here as he needs to be. You know, the courts have changed substantially what they're doing. They have people in every day. Every one of us, Commissioner Jalzinski, you're right, that whole plan about going back is huge. And not only is it huge, that it's going to be a big effort for our employees to make sure that we're getting up to speed and being able to deal with the backlog in every department. Unfortunately, MRFs goes around outside, so we're going to have a best plan for them. Actually, I agree with you 100%, and we're very conscious of that. So we're going to be working on that return to work plan.
Any additional, Frank? Mr. Engler?
Yeah, I was gonna bring this up in announcements, but I guess it's talking sort of the same subject. Is the Conservation District was actually had in May 9th, they were gonna have another electronic waste.
Yeah, they're having another, yeah.
16th was supposed to be the hazardous waste, and we're kind of in contact with the state, trying to figure out if we can still do that. People keeping their cars, and so that's kind of still up in the area. We're still trying to figure a way to do that. Hopefully we'll get a little more direction how to do that, but, and also the tree sale has been pushed back. So unfortunately it's kind of like agriculture. Once you can't really store that stuff, it has a certain time that things have to be done. So we're trying to figure a way to do that. Maybe instead of a 1 day, 4 or 5 day, very limited time period. So I'll try to keep updated on that and a little bit more on that, but we're kind of like everybody else. We're trying to figure out a way to accomplish something, keep everybody safe. So
That's a popular deal, Frank, that household hazardous waste.
Yep. And that's the 16th. So that's still, we got, 3 weeks away, but we're working on it. So we'll try to keep you updated, or there'll probably be advertisements if we're going to do it, but we're still trying to figure out a way to keep it so everybody stays in their car and,
Mr.
all I
Harden?
have.
No, I got nothing. I've said everything. Sorry.
Okay. Any other discussion?
Yeah, Chair Green.
Mr. Sweeney?
I want to say my heart goes out to the families and residents at the Isabella County Medical Care Facility there, and I want to commend and support staff for what they've done. Last week it came out that 4 residents were ill, and then yesterday in the paper it came out that there's 16. When it came out that there was 4 last week, I knew that there would be additional ones because it takes time for the symptoms to present. And I know that the facility staff immediately separated staff and residents who they thought were either subjected or presenting such signs. So I know they're doing all they can, and it's a tough situation because everybody is at risk there and it's a closed environment. So we need to maybe find out how we can support them more.
That's a good idea. Anybody else for comments? We'll move on then. Good discussion. We're at general public comment again. Is there anybody that has pressed the *9, Nicole?
No, Mr. Chairman.
So there's nobody that is in muting, I guess is what I say.
That is correct. We had one person joined by telephone. They hung in there for a long time, but they're no longer with us on the phone.
Thank you. We'll move on then to announcements. Are there any announcements? Motion adjourns in order.
Motion by Horton.
That's a quick one.
Bye.
Got to get you
Hey.
the gavel.
Thank you, everybody. I think that went pretty well.
It went pretty well. It's good seeing everybody.
We have Port.
Bye.
and
Stay healthy.
Seconded that.
Hollywood Squares.
We have Port.
Hollywood
made
Squares.
that. Was there a second?
Who seconded the motion to adjourn?
Commissioner Jelazinski.
Jolozinski.
Thank you.
Sorry, Mindy, I didn't catch that.
Stay healthy, everybody.
Stay healthy. Nice to
Take
see
care.
everybody. Thank you.
Maybe sometime we'll do this in person.
Yeah.
Soon. Stay safe,
nice.
stay healthy.
You
Thank
too.
you, everybody.
Guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Thanks again, Mendy.
Good night. I got myself all hooked up for nothing.
That's the longest commission I've been to that.